Hey guys, so today we want to look at the actual code for binary search. So in the last few videos, we've talked about binary search. Specifically, we've tried to answer certain questions about binary search. We've looked at the conditions on when binary search is applicable. There we said that it is typically a property of the search space, and binary search is applicable on a search space if you are able to come up with an ordering of the search space such that you can define a predicate which is of the sequence f star t star, a series of 0 or more f's followed by a series of 0 or more t's. Then you can apply binary search on the search space with that predicate and that ordering of the search space. Then we said that, okay, now I know that binary search is applicable. What all can I search? I can search for the last f or the first t using this particular binary search. Now we want to talk about the actual code for achieving this. So now if you followed so far and if you are here, you basically already have an ordering for the search space. So the ordering for search space is defined and you have a predicate already, and you also know whether you are interested in the last f or the first t. So you know all of this. Now you want to just write code for this particular activity or for this particular scenario. And today in this video, we want to understand how to go about writing code or pseudocode for these two scenarios. That's the agenda for today. So let's say, so we have visually we have like two different codes that we are interested in. So I'll just divide my screen into two parts. The first is you have some predicate px, some predicate, and you are interested in finding the last f. And the second scenario is that you have your own predicate and you are interested in finding the first t. You have a search space. So some search space you have with some ordering of the elements. So I1, I2 and so on till ik. You have defined an ordering for the elements. And let's say you know that this is the start. I1 is the start and this is the end. Sum. You want to write code for doing binary search to find the last step or the first t. So let's try to understand how to go about writing code for these two scenarios. So first of all, what you will do is you will initialize the window where you want to perform binary search. So that window, typically you will start out with the entire search space as your window. So you will initialize your low to be the first element, and you will initialize your high to be the last element. Now you will start a loop which will go on as long as you have more than one element in the search space. So this loop goes on as long as you have more than one element in the search space. So as long as low is less than high, as soon as low becomes equal to high or greater than high, you know that the search space now has either one element or less than one element, right? In the while loop, you will somehow reduce your search space. And now you will have to think about some algorithm for reducing the search space. So this while loop typically has two parts. The first part is you want to compute the mid, and the second part is you want to reduce the search space. So first things first, let's talk about the reduction of the search space and how to go about doing it. So simply what you will do is you will first evaluate the predicate at the mid. So somehow, let's say you know the mid now. So you got the mid somehow, which here will be some element in the middle, right? You know the mid. Now you want to reduce the search space. So what you will do is you will evaluate the search space, the predicate on the mid. Now, if the predicate evaluates to true at the mid, what does it mean? Let's try to see that. So let's say this is your entire search space ordered. This is your mid. And you saw that the predicate evaluated to true here. Remember, your search space is F star T star. So you have T's here to the right, and you might have some T's to the left, and then your F's begin and they continue all the way till the start. So something like this you have, and you know that at the mid you got a T because the predicate evaluated to true at the mid. So what does that mean? You are interested in the last F, right? So if the predicate evaluated to true, that basically tells you that this entire part is irrelevant. Everything to the right of mid, including mid, is not necessary or no longer relevant for you. The element, the last F, will never be found there. Right? So now logically your search space should become this first half of the array excluding the mid. So that basically tells us that we should update our low should remain the same. Our high should be updated to this index, this, which is mid -1. So when I say mid, I am talking about the index. You understand mid -1. If you are not iterating on the indices, it is the one element just to the left of mid. The other case is if the predicate evaluated to false at the mid. So there, what is the scenario? It is something like this. So you got a false at the mid. Now remember, it's a F star T star predicate. So you might have some more F's after that false, that after the mid, and then your T begins. Keep in mind, you are interested in the last F. What can you infer from this? What you can infer is that you can discard everything to the left of this mid. You cannot discard the mid because the mid might be the last F. You don't know. But you can definitely discard everything to the right to the left of this mid because you got an F. So either this is the last F or something to the right of it is the last F. Right? So how should your search space unfold in that case? Logically, you should say that now your high remains as it is, but your low becomes mid. So that's the reduction of the search space. So this is the first part. How do you reduce the search space? You evaluate the predicate at the mid. If the predicate evaluates to true and you are looking for the last F, you know mid and everything to the right of mid can be excluded. So you adjust your high to the element just before the mid, just to the left of mid. And if the predicate evaluated to false, you are looking for the last F, you know that you can discard everything to the left of mid. So you adjust your low to become the mid itself. You cannot discard the mid because it might be the last. Once you are done with this while loop, here you will be left with one element, one and only one element, which is when, and that element will be low or high. Both of them will be pointing to that element. Right? So now, when you are left with that element, The last part that you need to do is you need to check if that element is truly an F, because you are looking for the last F. So here you check if the last element is an F. So that is very simple. You can just evaluate the predicate at that last element, that is low or high. You can use equivalently. If it is an F, this predicate will evaluate to false. So in that case, you can return found. And otherwise, if it is not false, which means it is true, then you know that you did not have any F in the sequence, because your last F that you were looking for itself is a T. So you can return not found in that case. Right? So this part of the code, once more, this is very simply, you are saying once I have the last element, I want to do a sanity check on that last element to see if it is really the element that I'm looking for. If it is, then I know that is the element. And if it is not, then I know there does not exist any such element. So that sanity check is very simple. You are looking for the last F, which means you are looking for an F. So you can check whether that element is an F. If it is an F, you can return found. If it is not, you can return not found. How do you find out the last element? You know the last element is pointed by both low and high. So you can evaluate the predicate at either low or high. Both of them will be fine. So this part of the code is called the sanity check. This part of the code is what I like to call as the decision. Typically, you take a decision here on the half of the search space where you want to continue your search in the loop. So that's why I call it the decision. And this part of the code is what I call the mid computation. So we have not yet discussed how do you go about computing mid. We will talk about that. There's one error here. The error is because I'm doing mid minus 1, you can initialize these to be the indexes. So you can initialize this to 0 and this to n minus 1. But you understand the idea. The idea is that low is nothing but the first element and high is nothing but the last element. So if you have the numbers in an array, you can use the indexes, and you know array of I will give you that number. And the mid computation also becomes easier if you are having indexes. So, but logically it is this, that low points to the first element, high points to the last element, mid is the middle element. You evaluate the predicate at the mid, take a call on which part of the search space you want to iterate based on how the predicate evaluated at mid. Once you are left with just one element, you check whether that element itself is an F or not, or is the element that you're looking for. Right? So this is the algorithm, or this is the code for the last F. We are left with just the last part, which is computation of mid, which I will come to in a moment. Let's complete the other part, which is, let's say, the same problem, some predicate, some search space, you are asked to find the first T. So let's initialize. So we'll initialize, let's say, low with 0 and high with n minus 1. Assuming these numbers are in an array, I can always do that. Our mid computation becomes easier, and our updating the low and high also becomes easier. So now I will start a loop as long as this loop will run as long as I have more than one element. Right? The first part is the mid computation, which I don't know yet. I will come to that in a moment. So I leave that blank, but I just know that I have something called a mid. Now the decision, which is the part where I reduce the search space, there what I do is I evaluate the predicate at the mid. If the predicate evaluates to true, what does this mean? This means you got a T here. You have an F star T star sequence. So you have all the T's after this. You might have some more T's before this and then F's all the way. Now this evaluated to true at the mid, and you know that you are interested in the first T. So what does that tell you about the decision? That basically tells you that your search space now should be this part of the array, including this mid, because this mid could be the first t. Another way to think about it is that everything to the right of this t is useless for you now, because you're looking for the first t, and you know everything to the right of this is not the first t, it is either the second or the third or fifth, whatever. So you can adjust your search space to reflect this. So now you are interested in this part, so you will update your high to mid. You cannot discard the mid again here because it's a t, it could be the first t. The else is if it evaluated to false, so that's the easier case, which means you got an f at the mid, and you know everything to the left of this is f, and to the right of this you might have some f's before t's begin. So that basically tells you that this part is your search space, and you can discard everything to the left of this search space, including this mid, because this mid is also an f. So this is definitely not the answer, right? So you can update your low to become mid plus 1. So that becomes your decision. The sanity check is simple. Once you are left with one element, you can check you are interested in a true. So you can check if it is true or not. So if p of low or p of high, then you can return found. Otherwise, you can return not found. So simple. These are like the two aspects. This is the sanity check, and this is what I call the decision. Final part, which is the computation of the mid, and we want to understand how we can compute the mid. So let's go and discuss that. Some background before that. As you know, in any sequence, you have mid is nothing but the middle element of the sequence, right? Logically, mid is nothing but the middle element of the sequence. So we are interested in finding the middle element of the sequence, and any sequence here now you have two possibilities of the mid. Let's see. If your sequence has odd number of elements, then you know that the mid is clearly defined. So let's say this is your sequence 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. You know the mid is very clearly defined, which is this. This is the middle. Logically also this is the middle. You have two elements to the left of this middle, and you have two elements to the right of this middle. So if it is an odd sized sequence, you know that the mid is clearly defined. But what if the sequence is even sized? So let's say you have 6 number of elements or 6 elements. Again, 2, 3, 5, 7. I don't know why I'm obsessed with 2 and 3 and 5. So let's say this is maybe primes. So let's say these are the numbers. Now you can, this is an even sized sequence or an array. I just don't want to use the word array because it's not, it's like a data structure. We are just talking about any sequence generally, right? Here you can see that you have potentially two mids, either this, which we call the lower mid, or this, which we call the upper mid. So there will be some asymmetricity on one of the sides. One of the sides will have one more element than the other side, definitely in case of even sized array. Or you can, like some people define the mid there as the average of those two, the lower and the upper mid. So bottom line, what did I tell you? I just told you that mid is the middle element of the sequence. In case of odd sized arrays, there is just unique one mid. In case of even sized array, there are potentially two mids, the lower mid and the upper mid. So this part of the algorithm or this part of the code is nothing but trying to figure out whether I should use a lower mid or an upper mid. And that's basically what I want to discuss next. Even before that, let's write the formulas for the two mids, lower and the upper mid. Let's say this is the sequence indexed by 0, 1, 2, 3, or let's say low and high. So let's say this is low index and this is high. So low is 0 and high is 5. Let's try to write a formula for the lower and the upper mid. There are various ways you can write these two formulas, but the way I like to write it is lower mid is low plus high minus low by 2, and your upper mid is low plus high minus low plus 1 by 2. So this is nothing but saying that if this is your sequence, you have a low, you have a high. What I do is I have this base to which I add this offset. This is the offset to which I add. What is the offset? The offset is this distance by 2. So this distance is high minus low, and you divide it by 2 to get this offset, and you add it to the base to get the appropriate position of the mid. This is how I have computed or written down these two formulas. Some people also, instead of writing these, they'll write low plus high by 2. As the lower mid, and low plus high plus 1 by 2, I think, for the upper mid. Now this is not entirely wrong. This is correct. Logically, this is correct. This will give you the correct index. But the problem with this is this might lead to overflows. Typically in programming languages like C++, where you have constraints to the size of maximum number that an integer can hold, or a maximum number that a double can hold. So when you have data type limitations, then this will lead to overflows. Why will more frequently than this? So that does not mean that this will not lead to overflows. But here, even if you have low as, let's say, int max, where int max is the maximum that an integer can have, by 2, and high is again int max by 2, you will, or int max plus 1 by 2 plus 2 by 2, let's say, then also you can easily see that this will lead to an overflow. But this will not lead to an overflow because this difference will give you a 2. So 2 by 2 is 1, and you are doing int max by 2 plus 1. So this will not lead to an overflow. So the whole point is you can write these formulas, but they will lead to overflows more frequently than these formulas. So this is better to avoid overflows. This will only lead you to overflows if low and high are very widely separated. So now with this background of low and high mid, lower and upper mids, we want to come back and discuss whether we want to use an upper mid here or a lower mid here. Same for this as well. So now here, typically you cannot use both the mids. That's the first thing. And I implore you to think more about why you cannot use both the mids. But in a nutshell, what happens is if you use one of the mids, then it leads to an infinite loop, which means the searching does not progress. And with one of the other mids, the searching always progresses. So you will not get an infinite loop. That's the basic reasoning. That's the basic idea why we can only use one of the mids. But I'll just simply tell you here how to think about the mid that you want to use. So typically, if you see in this decision or in this control flow, one of the blocks is always progressing, right? And you can see that what do I mean by always progressing? The search space is always reducing in size because you are at least not keeping the mid. So if you see these two blocks, between this block, let's say this is block B1, and this block, the else block B2, you can see that B1 is always progressing because you at least have the mid being reduced from the search space. So which means your search space is reducing by at least one always, right? In B2, there is no such guarantee. You are keeping the mid in the search space. So it can happen that the search space might not progress. So that's the reason why we generally want to use the mid corresponding to the block which is always progressing. So what is the mid corresponding to B1? You see in B1 you are updating high. So you want to use an upper mid here. That's just a trick that I told you, that how to identify. So mid here, then you can write as low plus high minus low plus 1 by 2. Once again, let's try to, that might be cryptic for some. Let's try to see this again. What I told you is, come to this decision, look at the two blocks. You have block B1, the if part, the block B2, the else part. One of these two blocks is always progressing, which means the search space is always reducing by at least 1. Here it is B2, which is always progressing. Why? Because you are excluding the mid always in B2, which basically means that your search space is reducing by 1, at least 1 always, if your condition goes to this else. So from there I told you that use the mid corresponding to that block which is always progressing. So if B2 is always progressing, look at the statement of B2. What are you updating? You are updating low, low. So use a lower mid because you are updating low. Here you were updating high, so you used an upper mid. So mid is low plus high minus low by 2. So that basically concludes our code for these two cases. This is the mid computation part. So we will keep on coming back to these two conditions and the subsequent and the corresponding codes as we keep doing problems. So this will become more and more clearer, but try to think of these the code in terms of these three sections: the mid computation, the decision, and the sanity check. Okay, in the next video what we will do is we will complete the two examples that we had started and write the code for both of them.